For more on this and the political ramifications of it all, we go to Ned Ryun, CEO of the American Majority. Ned, nice to have you with us. I guess it's official that Donald Trump is now a global disruptor. This is no doubt underscoring America first. How's this going to play out?
Well, I mean, I look at this as just to continue the next step in making the negotiations even more aggressive. You saw Wilbur Ross's comments, some other comments in which they really felt some of the negotiations over NAFTA were going much slower than they wanted them to. They felt like this would accelerate it. With the European Union, I look at people when they're talking about a trade war. The tariffs that are being imposed are rather infinitesimal when you consider the annual trade between the European Union and the United States. I look at this more of as a little bit of a slap, saying we're very serious about what we want. And at the same time, Ed, you and I have had this conversation before. This all really centers around Trump and the United States saying we're going to protect our steel and aluminum production for national security reasons, and no superpower in its right mind is going to continue to let its steel and aluminum industries be undercut. So I look at it in another step in the negotiations and saying we're very serious about what's taking place. And the other thing, too, I'd add on this, Ed, is this. Australia, Argentina, South Korea, and Brazil all figured out how to avoid these tariffs because they came to an agreement in which they would not undermine aluminum output here in the United States. So there are ways for these other countries, Canada, Mexico, and others, to negotiate how they get out of these tariffs. At the same time, Trump is very serious about protecting these industries and getting what he wants.
Why would the president gamble with what many believe is a very strong economy and doing it against countries that are not impacting the steel industry, such as the European Union or Mexico or Canada? It's China that's the big culprit here, along with South Korea. What about that?
I would argue, too, the biggest culprit in my mind is China. I think when you deal with Mexico and Canada, it really is another negotiating tactic in regards to NAFTA. He wants to come to a better agreement that he thinks more beneficial to the United States. He feels like the talks have been going too slow, have been delayed. And so I think this is just an attempt to ratchet up the conversations and accelerate them. Again, I see this as a negotiating tactic, Ed. You know, when people talk about a trade war, talk to me in 3 to 6 months, and if we've gotten to an accelerated stance on tariffs after tariffs, then we can have that conversation about a trade war.
Well, what about the political timing of this? We've got a midterm election coming up in the not-too-distant future, and at least the union workers in this country are going to say at least this president's trying to do something different. And this also really takes a bullet point away from the Democrats because this is a play to union workers to make their situation better. How does that play out?
Well, I got to tell you, you hit on a point there, Ed. Politically speaking, if you look at the union workers in the Rust Belt, where there are key Senate races in 2018, but then again, obviously for re-election in 2020, Trump's playing to a certain base in some of these situations. I do think that he is making even deeper inroads to some of those voters that voted once or twice for Obama and then voted for him in 2016. He wants to keep them on his team. And so, again, I don't look at this as probably being long-term. At the same time, Ed, I'm going to say this as well. When we have had trade relations with these countries, European Union and others, who have slapped, say, 10% tariff on our stuff, and we've not slapped anything on theirs, you know what? We won't have any tariffs if you won't have tariffs, so let's get to zero. I would love to see that moving forward. Again, it's this back and forth of really saying there are going to be new rules of engagement moving forward, and I think people are still in this whole period of, is Trump serious or not? And I'm telling you, Trump's very serious.
All right. Ned Ryun, always a pleasure. Good to have you with us tonight. Thank you.